Thank you, and welcome to the Town of Belgrade Planning Board for January 5th, 2023. First one of this new year. So I don't see any participants virtually, so we are here. So someone's coming in, looks like. Thank you. So for our agenda tonight, we have new business and old business, a CEO update, and then we adjourn. Starting off with new business, the first item here is applicant Doug Frame. And it looks like Golden Pond LLC for Bill and Melissa, is it Goose?
Yeah.
At 128 Chester Thwing Road. And the purpose, what is listed here says you want to add one additional bedroom and one bathroom. Apparently to the current structure, is that correct? Okay, and so does everybody have the application? That would be this one here. Okay, perfect. Top of that. Hans, do you want to lead us through what you know about this particular application? And is there anything you want to say at this time?
Well, we've done the cursory review, visited the site we've done. Plotted out there would be a replacement of the septic system involved, and that's all been evaluated by the site evaluator and basically approved. Our biggest hitch here is the present square footage is 1870. And the front of the structure that I believe is 65 feet. and back is-
55 from the porch, 65 from the building, and then so inside 75 feet is 960 square feet. And then so going to talk a little bit.
Yeah.
So Hans and I spoke an hour or so ago, because after looking through it, we realized that there were some issues with the application, and he said, I don't know if it makes sense to come, and I said, well, let's just work through the exercise and see if there's some other options here, if this is not possible. So since then, I've spoken with the owners about some potential other options to see if they would even work. One of the things we're looking at is potentially taking the side portion. Do you have the plans, the building plan?
What we got it, at least what I've seen is can't even read.
Well, the photos, the black and white ones, you'll see a dive forest.
Yeah, do we have a, good size
I do.
drawing so that we can see scale and stuff?
Want me to show you?
I don't even know how far or close this is to the lake.
Right, no,
Do you mind if I come up?
yeah, please do.
Yeah, no.
Right there, maybe where Frank's.
Yep.
You know this property, Pete? I don't. I listened to a while. Okay.
That's those.
So, the lake is over here, driveway kind of meanders in here. This front porch here is 55 feet from the water. This part of the house here, 65, the 75-foot mark, basically cuts through right here. Okay, so this area here, the porches, the home is this part of the home is 470. And this part of the porch here is 10 by 10 is 100. And this part of the porch here is 390, gets you to 960 there. And then the rest is obviously beyond. And after reading the ordinance closely with Han, we're well over. So this is the area that would be the addition. This is existing. There's an existing, it's not configured like this, but there's an existing space like this. So they were looking to put this on. But I guess since we're over the square footage, the point's kind of.
Well, and we discussed removing some porches.
Yeah, so that's, so the two options that we kind of, just in a short period of time since Hans and I spoke. And speaking with the owner, we looked at possibly doing a swap, maybe taking this off. I mean, there's a lot of character to this building. I don't know if you've been down there. It's really unique.
We see it, we have pictures.
Really unique log home that they want to bring back to its original grandeur. So it's not the most appealing thing for them to do, but they, they have a lot of grandkids and they want to spend a lot of time here in the summer if they can, so they only have, you know, this bedroom, right, there's a bedroom here, and then this small bedroom. And so they really wanted to put another bath and a bedroom.
Is this existing or? is
That's
this
all
new?
existing, that's all existing.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was new just
No,
because of the crossing.
yeah, no, that's all existing.
Do you know where the 100-foot line is?
Yep, so this is 75, so. 75, so we're 18 and 4 there, so 22, so somewhere like right about.
So you got more than 500 square foot in here?
Yes,
All right.
yeah. Yeah, quite a bit more. So we talked about, and they're mulling it over about the potential for removing that and taking that square footage and putting it over here. And just, we'd like to kind of see if that is a possibility for doing that type of swap. It seems like it would be to me. And then the other option was they have a fair amount of land out back, but it's kind of chopped up because the neighbor's leach field kind of, you know, remember how that kind of came in, so that it jogs around them. So the other option is potentially building a small guest house or bunkhouse behind
100 feet.
behind the 100,
Yeah.
1 bedroom, 1 bath, maybe in the 12 by 16 foot range. And so you want to see the,
No, I was looking for the site plan
yeah,
overview.
it's in your,
Yeah, that's what I couldn't read though.
yeah. I don't have a big, I didn't pick a big one of that, but I'll show you where I was thinking. Can I see your phone?
Yeah, I can get a slightly larger one, but not many ones on record.
So.
Can you make it out for that?
Yeah.
Magnifying that.
Yeah, so here's the lakefront. This is the neighbor's leach field, which they carved out. So these two houses were owned by, I think, 2 sisters.
Oh, okay.
And they decided to keep this one and sold this off last year.
Oh, wait a minute, this is starting to ring a bell.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they carved this off.
Mhm.
So the area that, and we're putting the existing septic leach field for this house is right about here, kind of right around the driveway.
Mhm.
And we're gonna turn it into a chamber system. It's not a good system right now. We're gonna do a chamber system and basically on that same footprint. So it's gonna be in that area. It's not real appealing back here to put a guest house because this leach field is quite elevated. And so it's not a great spot. So what we're looking at in short term. It's kind of doing something in that area there.
There's no sheds or any outbuildings.
Nothing else.
That you could.
It's
A
nothing
little bit
else.
larger.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Y'all should be familiar.
That's great.
with that.
Thank you, Hans.
Yeah, I actually came in but you weren't here because it's in the afternoon, of course, and so.
There's room there for 10-foot from property line.
Mhm. Yep,
Kit Kat. No, we're on this lot. Yeah.
yes, yep, so this.
We're not on Kit Kat.
This is where I was thinking.
Yeah.
Somewhere right in there.
The oh, never mind, we'll get to that.
What about the history?
The benefit of,
What's that?
What about the breeze? It's back over and then.
Oh, I wonder if that would work. So Hans just brought up, what if this part was detached and there was a breezeway or something in this area?
Doesn't make any difference.
Because it's gonna be some, if it's connected somehow. Because the 100's right here.
Yeah,
it'd all be it's considered part of the whole.
I mean, we could do it detached there, right? No, if there was no breezeway.
yeah, and get it back behind the 100.
Right, yeah, the 100, my guess is the 100, just right, quick math, my guess is the 100 is right about here.
Came back that far. Long as lot coverage is exceeding.
Yeah,
I guess that's a possibility. I mean, this one probably a little more appealing just because you could have a shot, a view of the lake. The pump station is gonna be somewhere in this area here.
So what's the elevation at the 100-foot mark?
I'm sorry,
The elevation of the lake at the 100-foot mark, what's the elevation? How steep is the slope?
oh, it's very gradual,
Okay.
it's very, very
I'm not
gradual.
familiar with the property.
Yeah, it's the woodland campsite, that whole side's relatively flat, that whole point, there's not a lot of elevation over there to begin with.
So this is a non-conforming lot, is that true?
That's true.
Okay. So it's a non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing from pictures here, a number of trees, both small diameter and larger diameter, that surround the structure now.
Yep.
And on one of the depictions, I think I saw something that said large tree island. So does that mean that there's a stand of trees right there?
Is that what that says right there?
I think so.
Yeah,
There's not.
So that's gone away?
It's not there,
It's not there.
yeah,
Okay, I'm only asking because I'm trying to understand the types of resources that are there.
yeah.
My question there would be then, when they were taken out?
That would be a good question. Yeah, good.
I mean, it's-
Good answer.
I would say a long, long time ago, I don't know when that survey was done, but there's no signs of anything,
this says 2021.
yeah.
I mean, it might be the standard trees between the I'm not looking at what you're looking at, but it's a very heavily canopied area right now. That's old growth.
Yeah,
Seems,
All shade.
I mean, the amount of cutting of trees and natural vegetation obviously will be something that we'll be concerned about.
Yeah. The trees the trees were marked with Richard, when he was code enforcement officer with the owners. Before it came about, they wanted to clear out some dead trees and open up the canopy a little bit, because it's really forested. And so before we did anything, knowing that Richard had left, I wanted to get Hans out there, so Hans went out, we went and looked at all of them, and he concurred that those were all okay. As far as the trees are concerned, there's no like island there at the end of that driveway. I mean, I don't know what what they would be referencing.
Okay.
In terms
I
of,
don't even-
well, maybe these square footages are gonna change as you go forward, but, in terms of sort of big picture considerations, Richard already mentioned this in passing, is that at least on what information we have so far, we know how much the existing structures take up for as unvegetated surface area, but we don't know, we'll need to know how much of the driveway, any walkways, that kind of thing. Also, because to make sure
That
don't go over
that's
20%.
that was part of the questions in the online permit. And so those numbers are in, I don't know if they got transferred to there or whether they're
Well,
appropriate. I actually asked Hans was trying to get a
Yeah.
copy of what we.
Yeah, that's a whole different issue that we as a board need to discuss, because this is not.
Because
An application.
because I added the buildings and the driveway and the water.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't show up on this application.
Right, so-
It just shows it as structures.
Yeah, so it's, yeah,
Yes.
It
says
doesn't,
clear.
it isn't clear that it's unvegetated
mhm,
square footage.
yeah,
If that's the case, then you're fine.
yeah,
Currently,
It's-
with this proposal.
right, it's heavily forested. Heavily wooded, I should say. Yeah, thank you.
thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
So thanks for going through that, Hans, Doug, appreciate that.
You need this.
So I guess I'll say this, I think we already have some major things that are already impasses,
Mhm,
right, through the permanent application that's in front of us,
mhm,
right? We talked about the amount of square footage that's within 100 feet.
Right,
So and you heard the remarks that George said that Rich had mentioned in passing about the amount of vegetated surfaces versus unvegetated. We want to know that part. And then, so those are things I think we need to, actually, you will need to consider.
Yeah.
Going forward, so, I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I don't think, just, sorry to interrupt, I don't think that with the two options that I'm kind of exploring, since this one's kind of null and void, I don't think the numbers that I entered, I don't see that the numbers that I entered on the permit would change as far as the data. So I'll just have to, we have to access that for that.
Yeah.
Correct. And, so I'm thinking some re-engineering has got to occur before we can really do anything with an application for you.
I agree, yeah. Can you give me some guidance as to the two other options, if those are both feasible, and then I can in turn share that with the owners and see which direction they'd like to figure
Those would be moving what you propose back beyond 100 feet.
Doing a swap of existing.
Doing the swap.
That's one. First option, they're not in priority order, but option one would be to eliminate some porch area. Let's just say it's 200 square feet of porch area, and put that porch area on the back of that wing that's on the side there. Whatever the number is, you can go 400 off of the porch and put it back here. Is that a possibility? Seems like it would be to me. And then that second option is a guest house with a small bathroom beyond 100-foot mark.
If I'm understanding those two options that you presented correctly, it seems like that second one has more opportunity to pass from just quickly listening to that, from what I'm thinking of. I don't.
Keeping in mind that you can't put a kitchen in there.
Right.
Right. Yeah,
She doesn't even want a dishwasher. So there's definitely not gonna be another kitchen, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I think.
I wouldn't think so, as
Yeah.
long as the square footages work out.
Yeah, I think we need to know on the application itself, the drawing, what the distance is from the front, the back, as the, on the graph paper,
Yep.
So we can figure out how much of the building is within 25 feet, 100.
Yeah, I can-
I don't know.
You want me to just show you that quickly?
I think when you give it the application.
Yeah,
Well, it's just, Pete, if we had. Something was more legible or, in terms of size or really was
I can-
the
I can do
photocopying and all
I can
that.
do that as a full size.
Yeah,
I'll do
that,
I can do that as an RC.
Yeah.
This doesn't have distances from the water.
Yeah,
it-
That
it-
would all have to be
right.
put in
Yeah.
there.
but that is the scale, right? Well, I don't know. It was,
It is-
I guess, it probably the scale changed with, reduction, but. Um. But yeah, we need at least, a master, of full size.
Yeah.
That would. Be very helpful.
I don't wanna go out and do a site visit. I don't wanna measure. Too cold out there.
That's his job.
So
What you're gonna do in the real world.
I'm just curious what the issue with the swap idea would be, just so I'm understanding it.
well, it's a good question.
I think, we need the information as to exactly how much the building is in, the two sectors here.
Yeah.
The 25, 75, 75 to 100. right?
Absolutely.
Makes a big difference, right?
Yeah.
So if we know that, we can put the most of the building as you want, in the 25 to 75, and put the maximum there. Then the remaining, would be back to the 100. Now, you may be over, okay?
Right,
So then you can, from 100 on, you can go more.
right,
So and then you have to remember the 20% rule too,
right.
for property.
In my thinking, if you were to do the swap of square footage, we would be taking square footage out of the area that's closer to the water. I would think that would,
Within 75 feet, right?
yeah, I would think that would be
Yeah.
something you
Yeah.
want to do. Versus, I would think that would be okay. It's not like you're.
Yeah.
putting more
Sure.
Yeah, no, I think it would.
That,
It
that's
would be
okay.
Yeah, no, it would, I think it would, to. Get you that extra square footage
Right,
within 75 feet.
yeah.
which part of the addition would be,
Yeah,
I believe, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
I agree.
So that's where we are with this one.
okay,
And, first of all, I want to say, you know, you filled out this application, right? That was a new one online,
Mhm.
right? This is the first time we've ever seen this.
sure,
In my opinion, it's still incomplete as to what the ordinance says is required.
yeah,
So I would call this incomplete
Yeah.
for an application. And that's not a criticism, it's just how it is, what we're
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
Right, the ordinance talks about all the things that we would be looking for.
Yeah.
In particular, Pete pointed out sort of the diagrams and overviews that would show what's in, what's out of shoreline zone,
Mhm.
what's existing, what's proposed. Right now, I can't, and the pictures are nice, that's for sure. It's good to
Right.
see those. And I would encourage you to have those going forward,
right.
but it's impossible really for us to know.
I thought it was very odd that they never asked how far the building was from the water, and I have all the information, that's why I
Yeah.
brought it.
Well, I'm glad you did. That's a great, you got a leg up, right?
I don't know if the rest of the board would agree with this, but, I mean, I've already mentioned to Hans, this is fine as a working, you know, this is the direction the town's gonna go in, but we need to approve it and we haven't yet. And there's other information missing from it, so, and I apologize, that, you know, there's sort of a misstep here, but, I think the best thing to ensure you're submitting a complete application is go to the current application form, yeah, which, you know, for example, would clarify buildings versus other, you know, total unvegetated area, for example.
Sure.
Please.
And, you know, there's some other information that's missing. The town needs to assign Hans needs to assign an application number. There's no place to do that on this. You know, some of it's little stuff, but
I think we did generate an application number, because I do have that.
so that would help. And there's also an area there to, in a narrative form to describe what you're proposing.
Right.
As you can tell from my questions, I had the wrong end of the stick, you
Yeah.
know, as a consequence. The other thing in terms of, you know, a future application, if you could, include, at least we didn't get it. We got the, inspection of the existing.
It's in your, I brought it tonight, because I noticed it wasn't in your. packet.
Oh, okay. That's what I was gonna say, because we'll need that to be able to approve
Yeah,
it.
did you hand out the letters from the neighbors?
I did.
It's in
Yeah,
the-
no, I was gonna say the HHE.
It's in the back of that.
Yeah, it's a new.
Yeah, because we'll need to know that you've already approved this.
This email, the very.
The back pages.
Okay, yeah, so that'll need to be part of the application.
Yeah.
So that we know we're approving an expansion with a system that has already been approved.
As far as electronic application, we don't have a system set up right now where somebody can get the electronic version of the actual application and download it to their machine and fill in the blanks or whatever.
No,
Any way
at
to
the
do it?
time, back in 2018, the town didn't have the right right word software to do that is.
I think they used to be a PDF, didn't they?
Was it movie?
Yeah, you can, I don't remember all the details. Let's put it this way, we couldn't make it happen to be a fillable form.
Yeah.
We being the town of Belgrade, but the bigger issue, I mean, I think that's the right direction to go myself personally. Just for ease,
Right.
but we've never seen or approved this application, this new application form versus the existing one we did. You may recall, we spent a lot of time developing that
Absolutely.
and ultimately approving it. And so we just, you know, if we're gonna go in this direction, which I'm fine with, we just need to work through it and, you know, it's not ready for prime time just yet.
The way you submitted the septic information, you uploaded those files.
I did.
You can do that the same way with the old permit.
Yeah.
Mary can give you one on the way out.
Yeah.
Fill it out, scan it,
Okay.
upload it, and then we can print it, and it's kind of a redundant, you know, like you said, George, we're gonna work through this, because here we are.
Yeah, right, and the fact that you were able to get it in a, now have the capability to, make this a fillable form is great. It's just, you gotta make sure it's got everything
Well,
we
and
need.
there's an information loss from what Doug actually entered in his form to what prints out here.
There's more info on the actual permit that I filled out. That's why I called earlier, because after I hit submit, it only just it just sends back an email saying you submitted permit number 208. And it didn't give me the opportunity to print all the stuff I entered.
Yeah,
And so then it took that information that I entered and created that summary that you have.
yep,
And so I knew the questions you were gonna ask. I mean, the fact that there was never a question about how far this building is back from the water. I know that's the first thing you're gonna ask.
yeah.
That's why I had all the information and wanted to make sure. It was just very odd that that was missing.
Yeah,
So Doug was our guinea pig, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
laboratory rat,
The setback on the side and rear there would be 10 feet.
yes.
Okay.
On the rear, on the side, it's 10 feet, on the rear, it's, is there a road or anything?
Right away behind you, so you're 20.
No, there's just a driveway.
No, it's right away.
Right away, so it's 25 feet from the edge.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be anywhere near that because it would be this side of that. Leach field. Yeah. Okay.
Is it 25 feet from the edge or the middle?
Edge,
Edge,
35 from the middle.
yeah,
You do the height
We
thing.
wrangled over that for a
yeah,
while.
yeah, that was another area where we, just like with, well, I guess the solar ordinance where, you know, a lot of these camp roads, there's no deeded right of way. So you
Yeah.
can't, you don't know, it's
That's
never
nice.
been surveyed, you know, a lot of them,
But the verbiage also includes shared driveway. So
yeah.
regardless of what it is, it's 25.
And one of the pieces correspondence that we received today, mentioned, a right of way going through the lot. If that's indeed the case, if you could show that on the site drawing, that would be good too. Make sure that's complete.
I'm not sure that's the case.
Well, if you could clarify that would, if you could clarify that would be great.
Yeah, sure.
The other thing I noticed, I may have missed it, but the letter of authorization from the Gooses indicating you can get the permit for them.
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought
good
that
point.
that wasn't on the online form as well.
It was.
I didn't see it there.
All right. So I'm not sure how the board feels about this, but my thinking is that this is an incomplete application at this time. We've provided, I think, Doug with some valuable information about what we're expecting for a complete application. How would the board like to proceed at this time?
I think we should table it.
Doug, how much time do you think you need?
I don't think very long.
30 days?
Oh, yeah, well, I don't think it'll take that long.
So we'll keep it just active for 30
Yeah,
days.
I think
30
I'm
days.
gonna really make sense to just start a new application. What we do is gonna be very different than what's there anyways.
Yeah, it's a matter of,
Plus you need more information. I'm
yeah,
gonna
so you
use-
don't have to pay the fee twice.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, 30 days, if you come back,
Yeah.
you don't pay the
Okay.
fee again, but
that's fine.
unless, you know, but after 30 days.
Yeah, I'll get direction from the owners as to which way they'd like to proceed and
Okay,
then we'll submit it that way, see what happens.
okay. So you know some of the things that we'll be looking for, using the old or the current application form, right? The letter of authorization, the plan overview that we talked about, showing distances, showing vegetation, showing structures, all of that. And I'm sure I've missed something, but that's the direction we need to have.
Right.
Right? on that.
I mean, certainly we'll be asking and, you know, how many and what, if any, trees will need to be cut for
Right.
whatever the proposal ends up being, but yeah.
Then I would encourage you to be in contact with Hans. He's your guiding light in this.
Mhm.
Then the idea would be when it's complete and comes here, then we can act on it
Mhm.
rather than anything else. So
We have a number of members, or I can't see all,
we
but
do.
we do have a number of member public,
Yeah.
and I don't know if any of them wish to speak or.
Does anybody who's attending have anything to say at this time?
Raise your hand.
Sure, so the Dallases are saying no, and then anybody else?
Karen does. I have a couple of questions about the application.
Can you hang on just one second?
Yeah.
Karen's raising her hand and now she's unmuted. Thank you.
No, go ahead, Shane.
Oh,
I guess, thank you, Karen. I sent an email to the town office and I wanted you guys to get the information as far as points of discussion where that piece of property was divided a year ago, that the board approved that. So according, in my opinion, if you look at page 16 of the shoreline zoning ordinance where it talks about it as a single piece of property that had multiple dwellings on it, that was subdivided. Then it's, does that property lose their grandfathering? It doesn't?
No,
The grandfather, to become grandfather, so to speak, as, well, when you say grandfather, you treat them as two separate lots. And they both lots have to, for future expansions or whatever, have to meet the standards.
So it's page 16, line 3. So I mean, as far as like a clarification of what that means.
yeah, and the structure, the two camps were non-conforming structures, remain non-conforming structures,
Right.
Legally existing, so to speak.
legally existing non-conforming structures. I don't know if that helps. But
I guess that was my point. Karen, if you got something.
Well, my main concern is the right of way. Because currently there has been a right of way functioning since 1907 through property. The Cooks, the neighboring property, the Cooks right now have no other access to their property except through the property in question. And neither lot, they're non-conforming both in square footage and area. They're non-conforming on shoreline, but they're also non-conforming on frontage to a road. So that needs to be taken into account. Because there will be a domino effect. There are only so many cars that can fit in through those roads. And that means taking down a lot more trees.
Peter,
thank you.
and the right of way, you can ask her, is it what to say in the deed? You have to take a look at the deed. The right of way should be discussed. One way or the other.
That's the rub.
So.
The deed says the right of way will be discontinued.
So did you hear that?
What was that again?
He said the deed says that the right of way will be discontinued. Is that correct?
But did the town approve of that?
The town has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
But what it does, I don't see how it is possible, because what the sellers did is created a landlocked situation for themselves. They don't have other access to their house. And they said they would find another method of access in the deed. That's all up in the air still.
So is the Cook residence the twin of this? The camp that was on the other portion of this?
Yeah.
What was this one lot at one?
Yeah, the
That
Kit
was all
Kat,
one lot.
Right.
Look at map 30,
Right,
lot 4A was one lot.
right,
And then a year ago, this board.
Right.
approved the separation of it. And when the Cooks sold that property to these current owners, in the deed, they were given 24 months to find a different way out. But there is no physical way of getting a different way out without crossing
Okay,
Miss Hopkins' property
oh, okay, I see.
or.
Or Stephen Arnold's
Yeah.
property.
I mean, as Hans said, that's not the town's concern.
I understand that, but what Karen's bringing up is if a bedroom's put back there, as long as they, I guess, could meet the 23-foot setback, because that's, well, a driveway or a road, it's a right of way,
Yeah, no, that's a driveway, doesn't meet the legal definition of a road.
right? Well, whatever the setback is, I guess.
Right.
That you would.
I mean, Far Lane might be a road. I don't know where that goes. I'm not familiar with this area,
I'm not
but
sure the primary structure meets the setback at this point.
Right.
Okay, that island, I believe, is some trees and they might park on one side and let the neighbors access to the other side of those trees. That's the island. I have to revisit it to make that clear in my head, but that's my assumption right now.
Okay,
Again, this is it's something that the sellers created to themselves. They need to resolve it. And what Doug, the Johnsons have planned does not put any footprint on that existing driveway.
Karen, did you have another comment?
No, that was my main.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else have anything to add to this? No? Okay, George?
I was just gonna say, we've received a number of written communications. We just
Mhm.
need to make sure those are part of the project file. Because they're public records at this point.
Indeed, and so, I know you printed them off for us, so I'm thinking that you have them as part of the original package.
Okay, good.
Perfect, thank you very much, Hans, really appreciate that. Okay, great, any more discussion on
Just
this?
one more comment.
Absolutely,
If you decide to go with option one, which is a transfer, just make sure that it's very clear to us when we see it, what square footage was gone, and where
Yeah.
the square footage is.
And that the site drawing's clear that what's being removed and what's being added.
Right.
And to the public, just so you know, I had one out there a month or so ago. I posted the neighboring properties with stop work notices in case somebody were to, without permission, start to cut trees to create more access. That's very obvious that no trees are to be cut.
Very
And,
much, Hans.
until they make an arrangement with a neighbor for, a paid right of way or some sort of arrangement, no work is to be done there. If you see where, please call me.
Thank you.
Who owns Car Lane?
That's, I believe, Alfred's or
Steve Arnold,
Arnold.
if you look at that diagram that you presented, you'll see the property lines. Steve Arnold runs both sides of Car Lane down to the point where Hopkins property is.
Oh,
So
He's right
basically,
there. He's right
okay.
there.
he's the banker. of the
And he owns Chester Twin Wells, so where your septic system abuts up to that property, Steve Arnold owns into that abutting property. He doesn't just own the road, there's inside the road.
Yeah.
On either side.
Isn't, it's not a shoulder, it's actual forest.
Right. So the septic would be, what, 10 feet from Steve's property line?
Yeah, it's the existing location.
Right.
Excavated.
No, yeah, no, thank you for that.
thank you, Hans. So, at this point, I entertain a motion,
I'll make a motion to table the application, pending resubmit
For 30 days.
for 30 days.
Yeah.
Is that the advice the attorney told us?
That's advice I'm giving right now. That way, we're all on the same page. In
Yeah.
30 days, if it's not acted upon, it's gonna be dead.
Table the application for 30 days.
Okay, thank you for that.
I'll second.
Seconded. So we've got a motion, seconded. Any more discussion? No. So all those in favor, we'll do a roll call vote so people can hear us. So in favor, so Rich.
Yes.
Pete. Yes. Sarah,
Yes,
George.
Yes.
I too am in favor, so it's table. Thank you. 5 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. All right, good luck.
To the drawing board.
Yes, back to the drawing board.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, well, thank you.
That's the original cabin down on the building.
That, first one there,
First one there.
yeah, I do that.
It goes back a Shane.
You're over it.
That was fine around 1903.
There's a bunch of part, everything.
Yeah, the date of it was built was carved into it.
Really?
1903.
Yeah.
Who, bought Woodlands, yeah, like Betty, something or other?
Betty
Very,
Grant
very
there
good.
for a long time.
Yeah,
I noticed there was reference sometime tonight about tennis courts are is this place near where the tennis courts are?
So if you go, you hit Car Lane and the tennis courts are on your left, you're going straight, you're gonna turn a little right. There used to be a big huge pine tree that directed you down there, you're gonna turn right and then left into the driveway, the shared driveway.
Now, isn't Esther Fern down there?
Sorry,
Esther Fern,
Escapern?
I think the woman that's right.
Yes, she's my cousin,
Oh, on Golden Pond.
right,
Right,
we're the own Golden Pond family, yes.
all right.
that was on the news tonight.
Eh?
On Golden Pond,
On the news?
the guy that wrote the play,
Paul Thompson.
Oh, okay.
yeah, Ernest Thompson.
Yeah.
Is he
Yeah.
related to you guys?
Yeah, he's my
No
cousin.
way.
Yeah, he's Esther's brother.
So he was in the news tonight, there was a review of that thing, because he has a new book called the Book of Maps.
Yes,
Oh,
he just published it in November, yeah. And I'd like to mention, since you know it so well, that Chester Twing Road is actually the old town road where Norm went out to pick strawberries and got lost.
Oh,
No.
Yeah, so that's why it's so important for us.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Strawberries on there?
And-
Wow.
Yeah, in the middle of Carling, we still have strawberries.
Fantastic.
You might go to Hollywood after this.
My favorite,
I have a question.
my favorite movie.
Now, the movie was done over in New Hampshire.
right.
Swan Lake,
Right. Yeah,
But this-
because
this
we were
down
told,
is
Swan Lake,
not-
yeah.
yeah,
the property's Down from the 3 down from there.
So while we're playing Golden Pond trivia, I actually did a forest management plan for the property that's in that film.
Really?
No.
oh, you did?
Upland, they had a sugar bush.
On Swan
Oh,
Lake.
wow.
This was in a prior career, but
Yeah.
Cool.
See, a Puerto Rican have to tell you this tonight, so we can talk about it.
Biggest mistake the state ever made, they didn't have a film bureau at the time, and that's why it went to New Hampshire.
yeah, well, and they were also wanted someplace less developed.
Yeah.
is
They
what
would
I
have
was
to
told.
cut down trees to get the movie trucks in.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks, everybody. Really appreciate the input and I really do. It's good to hear about this. It's really
Yeah.
helpful.
And so next trivia night will be.
There'll be beer and popcorn. Just kidding. All right, so I think thank you very much, everybody. We're gonna move on to the next agenda item. Thanks very much. All are welcome to stay, that's for sure, because it's fun.
In case there's nothing on TV.
Right, exactly. Next on the new business is revised shoreland zoning. So this, I believe, would be referencing this map. This goes back a couple of years ago. I say a couple, it could be 5 for all I know. Time flies. I remember George, Rich and myself and maybe someone else, we met back here on several occasions to go over specific items on this map that would be properly delineated, right? And I remember going through a lot of exercise to kind of mentally walk through where certain things were, like freshwater wetlands that we wanted to indicate, and I think we talked about the kettle ponds, and we talked about a lot of things at that time. And the idea would be to get it mapped. And so it would show up as part of an official map, but never. And then we ran into something about paying the people to do it, and then something happened.
Paying the bill, as I said.
Yeah, paying the
We
bill,
didn't have the money, and it had to be revised or something like that.
something.
They wanted more money and we couldn't.
And there was an acquisition, it used to be one group and then it became CIA, CAI, and I don't know, whatever, but here we are. And I'm sure I've glossed over a lot of things that get us to this point, but I think, I know, so George has reviewed it, Rich has reviewed it, I have reviewed it.
I reviewed it and it's too small for me. I get
Yeah,
lost.
it's kind of hard, it's hard to do it.
Peter,
Yeah,
one thing I guess I gotta get, I must have had stuff that I think is important here that didn't make it to the town file. But I have a letter here from February 6, 2019 to Mary McDonald from me with CC to Jenny Keschel and yourself. It says, "Dear Mary, planning board member George Seal and I," putting George in the midst of this here. "And I have reviewed the large copy of the," notice it says large copy, so we must have at least one point in the town office, a large copy of their, of the draft shoreline zoning map that you graciously sent us at our request. "We compared it to our current map and determined that overall, you have done a great job bringing the map into line with our currently used map. We found only one inconsistency where a sliver of resource protection district is located on our current map, but is missing from your new map. I have attached a copy of the area from our current map and ask that you add that narrow area to the map. The only other request is that you change the color of the resource protection district to better distinguish it from the MWI wetlands so that there's more distinction between the two designations. Giving the resource protection district a red code would have it stand out and would be clearly distinguished from the adjoining wetlands. The two bluish colors are too similar and too hard to see when next to each other. So
Apparently they did that.
I think what we've got here is the map. I notice it doesn't have this little sliver, and it's showing where it was. It's on Long Pond,
Oh, that's right. I remember that now.
down the lower end.
Yeah, right. It was kind of inland too, right?
Yeah, the sliver was in what,
Wasn't part of the, wasn't attached to the lake. Is that right? Or am I wrong? Or is it? I don't know. I just remember it being off to the east.
it was away from the water, the side of the,
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, right.
so other than this
Start to
little
come back to
sliver,
me.
I think that map is exactly what we had with the old
Yeah.
map.
okay. So then are we?
I don't see this.
Where's the dam?
Actually, that sliver is shown.
Yeah, it is, it's right there.
Oh, wait, I think I see where you are, because if you go to kind of low on Long Pond, as you go towards Belgrade Stream. So south of where it says Mount Vernon,
Oh.
where it says Belgrade.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side of the water course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that where that little sliver
Yeah.
is we're talking about? There's a resource protection thing right there.
Which
Which-
right there.
Appears to be on the other side of the Dunn Road.
There it is.
yes, it is.
That's where the Belgrade stream goes down. Yeah,
So.
maybe I should have turned the light on. I'm not sure. But it is there.
It is there, okay, very good,
That meshes with our.
This is very small, Mike.
excellent.
Yeah.
Rich, thanks for finding that letter that was sent off at that time. So if we're in agreement,
You can have that. It's town property, I guess.
Well, it should be in the town file because you CC'd the
Oh, here.
town manager, but
correct,
it didn't make it. It's not your fault, Rich.
And the file is lost. Do
Oh,
you know where it is?
no idea.
I don't know. Like a big map.
Of course it
Big
is.
map. There's-
I thought we had that big map here someplace when I started.
We did, but then it was given to the engineer and, we never got back from that. I remember.
This is only a year and a half ago. It was on one of these walls and then things got moved around.
I do not know.
I don't know, but this letter was 2019, so it
Yeah,
was at least 3 years ago.
No matter what has happened with that map that we're talking about, we need the corrected map presently. We need it we need it here in the office so that an applicant could speak with Hans. So that the planning board could know where we're talking about. That's exactly what, this is
well,
the.
and this
official-
all, this latest round started with us not being able to find it.
Correct. So I think that only underscores the importance.
So it
of
isn't
having-
just files that get lost in this building.
Right,
With Gary, he had his own system and we're sorting through it. I'm sure we'll find it sooner or later.
Yep.
It's just right now, we don't know where it is.
right.
Yeah,
But I also recall, if I'm correct, I think I recall, that we went through the existing map and showed CAI or CIA, not CAI.
Yeah.
That we told them, we want you to take out the, and I have something in this packet with that. To get rid of the environmental advisory area, highly sensitive advisory area, and the highly sensitive slope advisory area, and take them right off the maps, because they have nothing to do with our ordinance.
Slope is mentioned in,
Pardon me?
isn't slope mentioned in the?
Slope is mentioned, but there is no these are areas that meet the slope definition or whatever, but aren't really in the shoreline zone.
That's right.
The ordinance are really, they're wetlands, maybe they're less than 10 acres,
yeah.
slopes that aren't in the shoreline zone. Defined shoreline.
My recollection is some of them were, areas that have been mapped by the natural resources, conservation, Department of Conservation's, what do they call that program? Natural Areas Program? Yeah, Natural
Yeah.
Areas Program,
Yeah.
or show up on Inland Fish and Wildlife's, beginning with habitat mapping.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily part of shoreline zoning.
Right. So it could be good information for the town to have on hand, but for our purposes and for the purposes of this map. I agree, we need not have that on
Yeah.
those things. So does that help answer your question, Hans?
I'm good.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna say. Can we request that we have this map that was
This
presented
is
to
the
us?
one they gave to Lorna that she forwarded to you, so all you need to do is give Lorna the thumbs up. And
We need the thumbs up to have that printed on large format. 36 by 48.
Yeah.
I'm asking the engineer who know that.
Yeah, that's right number.
If that,
It would be good. to
that'd be
wait.
good?
Yeah.
Okay,
Ideally, it'd be good to get 2 of them. Okay?
Yeah.
If we lose it again.
Yeah, right.
We get the-
tell Lorna.
Given our track record.
Send them on.
yeah.
Engineer prep.
So if I email, because we have the email thread, if I respond to that and say, after our discussion last night, we have agreed that we're looking for the production of this map.
In 36 by
36
40,
by
whatever size
48.
it is you determine.
I like the laminated. I love that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yep.
we'll ask for that. I'll make that request. So, are we good with that, everybody? Okay, and then I can furthermore request that
This is gonna be.
environmental advisory area, high sensitive advisory area, and high sensitive slope advisory are removed.
Right.
Okay, great. I will do that. Okay, that takes care of that. Next up, we'll go on to old business, planning board charter. And So. George, thank you for this memo that you produced for us.
Yeah, President, it's size, but
Yeah.
Where the question in front of the board is, that the planning board need to be reestablished under current state law? When, and I don't want to speak for George, but there was a realization that we may have some things in conflict with that, with state law. So it was a moment.
So, yes, so Peter's exactly right. The planning board was established in at town meeting in 1970. And 1 year later, the legislature did away with the law under which we were created. Not just us, but a host of other municipal planning boards. The new law, the so-called home rule statute, gave towns more flexibility to decide number of members, terms, all kinds of things. How many meetings you could miss, all that kind of stuff. Sort of the basics of how do you run a planning board. The new law also allowed planning boards that were not established under the new statute to remain in place, but they had to operate under the pre-1970 law. One of the other thing on the timeline is, I think my best guess is that the select board tried to deal with this, but did it in an inappropriate way in 1991. They developed what they called a charter for the planning board, which established membership and length of terms and all that stuff. The unfortunate thing is it's in conflict with the law under which the planning board was created. And so, for example, the best example, the clearest example is that under the law that the board was created, term limits were 5 years. Under the charter that the select board adopted in 1991, to be honest with you, Mary has not been able to find a signed copy of that. It's just adding to the long list of things that are missing in this building. But assuming that was approved, and that's Mary's recollection, that calls for a 3-year term, which is what we've been doing. And so the question becomes, one, do we need to reestablish the board under the new and current law? If not, if it isn't mandatory, is there advantages to doing so? One advantage would be, so that's one question. Question number two is, if the answer to question number one is we should or we have to be reestablished under current law, then we need to get rid of the 1991 charter and write one that's in compliance with current state law, and write it however we feel is appropriate in terms of how we wish to operate, and as in addition to issues like terms of office, number of members, the sequence of memberships, how does the board remove somebody from the planning board, that kind of thing. The select board remove somebody from the planning board. I think a good first step, and this is my recommendation, is for us to consult with the town attorney. And then take it from there. I don't know all the background of this, but the Board of Appeals just recently went through a similar kind of process. The law is a little different for Board of Appeals than planning boards, but there must have been something in the way they were established that it was it became necessary for them to be reestablished, and hence the ordinance that went to the voters or to town meeting, what, a year ago, something like that, maybe, that was approved. And by establishment, what I mean is the approval of an ordinance by the voters of the town. The select board doesn't have the authority under state law to establish a planning board. Only the voters do. Or town meeting.
So if we get reestablished, then that has to go to both
Yes,
town boards.
Okay, so if you're gonna update the reestablish and all that, bring it up to the current law standard. We talked to the town manager, let her bring it forth to the select people and the people to make the final decision.
yeah, no, I think that would be very appropriate, Pete. I think that would be like step number 2 or something in the process, you know, first, let's find out what the legal lay of the land is. And then we can discuss it and come up with a recommendation, and then I think, you know, we should bring that to the town manager.
Okay, at some point in time, though, do we want to get some direction from the town manager, want to get some direction from the selectmen? Let them, the selectmen might say, oh, we didn't want you to do this in the first place, so should have left it the way it was. And so let's get that clarified first.
Yeah,
You know,
I still think my personal opinion is that I think we need to get some legal advice first, because
Okay,
the select board, they're not gonna know.
Right.
well, right, but before we spend a lot of money going through a lot of effort, you know, let's make sure top manager is.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
I agree. I don't think we should be necessarily like drafting an ordinance or something of that nature, spending that kind of energy. I should point out, it may not, in terms of, if it came to, you know, we needed to, and the select board was on board with this, it may not come to a large expenditure, because there are some models in the MMA planning board manual.
Yeah,
And I'm guessing our town attorney probably has other models as well. Because obviously every planning board in the state has gone through this process.
Oh, I think-
Other than the cities where if a city like Portland or even Waterville that has a charter, has a council form of government, they have additional authorities that a select board does not. One of which is to establish a planning board.
well,
Because of our form of government. does
Right,
not provide that
because we have a
for-
town meeting form of government.
Right. And so, Pete, I think it's a great idea to be able to inform and consult with the select persons. After we get, I like your idea, but after we get legal kind of pointer, like what's the roadmap going
Right.
forward? And then share that with them and say, what do you think? You know, so that would be good. That collaboration will be very important. So-
Well, and for them to understand, I mean, for them to, if we have a sense of the direction we think is the appropriate way to go, to get their buy-in, they need to understand what the issues are.
Yes. That'd be very important. So, so to ask the town manager to present this to the town attorney.
Yeah, well, we can handle it the way we've done it before. I mean, as you know, the town attorney's on retainer now. It isn't a matter of racking up a new bill every time we go to them. You know, if you'd like, I'd be willing to draft up something for the board's review and ultimately for you to forward to the town attorney and, you know, CC the town manager. I mean, that's the way we've conducted our business over the last several years. And pose the questions that we have to the town attorney and see what we get. And then I think then it would be appropriate for you, Peter, or for either meet with the town manager or invite the town manager to one of our meetings, which probably would be a good idea anyway.
Awesome, yeah. Like that.
So you probably don't know the answer to this, but maybe you do. But if we were to decide that we're gonna keep within our current plan, how we operate, but we made an amendment in the future, I'm sure that amendment has to comply with the current law as far as what it would require, but you don't know whether if we kept the old thing and then made an amendment that that would require us to then I know there's some laws that say you can keep your old standards, but if you amend it, it has to be consistent. You now have to be consistent with the new statute.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, Rich. I do know, or I think the answer to the question of, well, if, let's say the select board or we and the select board decide, well, we're not gonna reestablish or draft an ordinance and bring it to the voters to establish the planning board under the current law, then at a minimum, we gotta rewrite or get rid of, at a minimum, get rid of that 1991 charter. Because it's in direct conflict with law, state law. But the other thing that's gonna happen is I don't know how you make this transition, but for example, we would all have 5-year terms. Because that's what the original law,
That's a long time.
it is a long time.
I myself, we finding people that, I mean, don't get me wrong, because Mrs. Steele did a great job for 12 years. But people that are in the school board for more than 9 years are having issues with that right now.
yeah, well, and the other thing
Okay,
is,
is it-
I mean, if you go out to the public and say, we're looking for a volunteer for the planning board, and by the way, the term is 5 years, that might deter quite a few people. Rather than 3 years, which is a little bit more manageable, you could say, well, okay, I'll give it a try and. And if I, if it just doesn't work out with my work schedule or, daycare or whatever,
It could feel more like a sentencing than
yeah.
volunteer period.
Then they say, well, I'm for 5 years, you could pay me this amount of money. Then that thing.
Well,
Sure. Get the old carrot.
It works everywhere,
Carrots.
I'll let you make that pitch to the select board.
especially if the carrots get bigger as you go along.
3 years for free.
Right, yeah, there's a signing bonus at year 3, just like baseball.
Just, I may be misreading this, but on your paragraph number 2, where 1971, is that supposed to be September 23, 71?
It is,
Okay.
yeah, sorry about that, yeah.
So I have a question though, Mr. Seal. What would be your preference, to stay with established or to go a new law?
I honestly, at this point, I'm not sure because I don't know that I don't feel like I really understand the pros and cons of other than, the example I gave you of the 5-year term versus a 3-year term. I guess generally speaking, my preference probably would be for reestablishing it under current law, just because that gives the town more flexibility.
I agree with you. I don't agree with a lot of things, but I'll go.
That will be my blind guess.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, but
So, I really will, in my mind, just because we're not gonna be here in 30 years, at least I'm not gonna be here in 30 years. Establishing the new law will be the thing to do. And we're fortunate that we have you and you here with all this knowledge from all this time that you have been here, but it's been 30 years.
Well, I already know that. Not telling me anything I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, obviously, I looked at the state laws and I looked at the MMA manual, but what I can't answer, of course, and our town attorney would be able to, is I don't know what the courts have done with this over time. Maybe they've made a decision in some critical case that said, all towns that were originally established under the pre-1970 law, they don't have forever to, you know, reestablish themselves. There was maybe there was a deadline, you know, I just don't know.
Maybe it will be very expensive to do it with it under the new law, doing all this transition.
I'm guessing it won't be because of these model ordinances that we could take and then tailor to our needs.
Yeah, I'd hate to think that we had to do and start over again.
No,
ourselves.
Right.
There's a model
Yeah.
ordinance.
I mean, this
and
is
we can
something
comply with new laws.
the vast majority of towns in Maine have had to deal with at one point in time, unless they're like us, they're just kind of, you know, lost track of what that ancient history.
I would like to find out if our town's attorney knows an example of a town that has reestablished, has done this very thing. You know, if he said, oh, yes, Raymond just did this, or Naples, or.
Whether he will, I'm guessing he probably will, and I bet you it's one of their clients.
Sure.
But I can tell you with certainty, because I did talk to my wife about this, she knows of towns that has gone through that process,
Okay.
mostly just because they wanted the flexibility.
And just knowing that much is also very good for us to know, because I think it's assuring that it's not a wild goose chase, right? It's not something that's just sort of arbitrary.
Mhm.
It's, we don't want to end up in a legal pickle. 'Cause we've
Yes.
done nothing.
And that's, I get that
Right? We
point.
want to avoid that sort of chaos. Kind of want to land on a good spot so that going forward 25, 30 years from now, that we would have set the path so that people have good legal standing. That's what we need going forward.
So as I said, I'd be willing to take a shot at a first draft. And get it to Hans to have it either our next meeting or the meeting after that.
Thank you, George. That would be
Yeah.
really, really kind and generous of you. Thank you. That would be great. Then we can review it and if we can get it on our next meeting or the one after that, whatever.
Old business, it'll be there.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Very old business.
Then I would anticipate whenever we take this up again, we'll be able to make a motion to then bring it forward to the town's attorney in whatever avenue it's gonna be. Well, thank you very much. Great research, actually, too, and really thorough.
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of this is discussed in the MMA planning board manual.
Yeah.
That's why I say, you know, you read in between the lines. We're not the only town that's ever faced this by any means.
So speaking of,
You don't think Smyrna's done it already?
What, that's murder?
You don't think Smyrna's done it already?
Maybe Island Falls.
what about Benedicta?
Yeah.
It's going to be here.
I know. So on this particular topic, George, you mentioned the MMA manual. That's the kind of narrow manual that we've had copies of before. I think it's, is that correct?
We used to have it in a 3-ring binder, or at least that's how I got it when I joined the planning board. Now, it's been revised since then, and
So now.
the way I access it is online. You can go to MMA's website, and any of us as a town official can register. And then we can, because the general public doesn't get access to those manuals, whether there's a manual for code enforcement officers, there's a manual for appeals board, the manuals for tax collectors, et cetera. But you can then set up you can register and then you can log in and go to legal services and you find it that way. That's how I did it.
So maybe rather than having something published and in hand, we can just go to the online.
Yeah,
That could save us something.
yeah. Yeah, that's how I access it. now.
George, you mentioned the manual for code enforcement officers. Where do you get that?
Same place.
MMA?
Yeah.
'Cause I got a call from a planning board person over in Winthrop there, and they wanted to know something about code enforcement officers, and I said, I don't know. How do we do it? And I said, And, I thought there's something at the state, but I didn't know where.
Yeah, no,
I'll give them a call, let them know that's where to get it.
yeah, no, as they can, if they're not already, I mean, we're all considered town officials by MMA, so they can just register and then they can go to legal services and find it there.
Great, thanks. Does that wrap up old business for the planning board charter? If so, let's move on to CEO update. So Hans, what do we got going on?
Well, on the agenda, online permit application, which I think we've discussed enough to give them some directions and George's emails and all your feedbacks. When we go back, have them modify this application. Before we have it presented again as a real application, we will have it done. To
Thank you.
So Hans, did you mechanically put this together?
no, that's what I inherited from Anthony.
Oh, okay. I had no idea.
I didn't know either, yeah.
It was there, it was just never activated. I mean, we put this whole hour program.
Oh, it's part of that.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember when that was purchased,
Right,
but I had no idea.
right.
And like, there is, I've been through the application. And I guess what I need to find from them is. To pull out the information, like Doug put in way of more information than what you're showing me, how do we get it onto this? permit? I'm pretty sure everything you want has been entered. And the line items that we need to fill in, you know, as far as the fee, the DEP certified contractor and the, you know, approval. The permit number, of course, it's not a permit yet, so there isn't one, but it is an application number. Those lines. I think have been developed because they developed this off of our existing application. So they have all that information, it's just how do we get it to print where we want.
Oh, okay. And then we could take a look at it and then review and approve it.
So
Right,
The input form is there with all we need, it's just the output form.
Yes,
Okay, I
and
see.
there's no reason our output form needs the town seal on it, you know, this is a working document for us, we know where we work, we don't need to have.
Okay.
So we got space there. That, you know, we got the real estate to put more lines in there.
Okay.
awesome.
I'm on the same page you are.
Right, but thanks.
Well, but that explains a lot. That was helpful.
Yeah, very helpful. And yeah, I look forward to an overall process improvement that would allow, you know, that online interaction, because for an applicant, that could be very helpful. They could, especially if they could save it before they get to submit it, because
Yeah.
if it were me, for example, and I was halfway through and I had a question, I might want to be able to save it, come in on my laptop, speak with you about it, and you say, oh, now go
Yeah,
ahead,
right.
fill in this thing. Oh, got it. And then
Well-
fill it in and then go.
It's getting there. I mean, I've been trying to use it a lot. From
Right.
day one, I knew I had to adopt this thing, so I've been spending a lot of time with it. And it is a great resource because we're building a history inside this software. So when I want to look up, oh, is there a septic permit for this property?
You search
Instead
it
of
right
thumbing
there.
through a leaf binder, I can do an advanced search and I work, go up the street and get all the permits that have been issued to that street.
How awesome.
Yeah. That'd be
You know,
really good.
set or map and lot, you can sort any different way, from the developer name to the owner's name, the applicant's name, street address, map lot number.
And I'm gonna push the envelope here. With that, as the designs come in and get loaded up in there, with that drop it in that.
Yes.
Oh, no.
You can scan, if you can scan it into an electric file, you can upload it. And it comes into the uploaded documents and you just maybe have to retitle them. Yeah, they're all accessible. And that's like Doug, this application, he spent time on his end. But when it came in, I spent 10 minutes just clicking and printing.
Yeah.
And it saved me a lot of time.
Fantastic.
good.
So I want to make sure I'm clear on something. I heard Sarah ask a question. So,
This was a tease question, actually.
it was, and I would love it
Yeah.
if there would be a business, all the business data associated with geographic data. right? Because she said the map.
This
So
one-
if all parcels were digitized and we had a way to connect that stuff that's entered through a parcel that's represented on this, then we are really.
Oh, we're big time.
So I'm limited to each file it's uploaded,
Right,
you know, if you wanna do the old fashioned, print it and then cut it and paste it to the next file that you print, you know.
right,
You can
no,
assemble a whole map. right now.
Now, would you ask that to the software company that did that? Because it should be just a little thing. It really will be all this information will be part of the database, okay, and you can pull it in which way you want. But there will be, several one file that will have all the information for one lot. And then that file will have a name, and then you can tag that name to a position in the map. It should be so easy to do that, it's not even funny.
It wouldn't require the tax map to be digitized because the tax map hadn't been digitized yet.
Not necessarily, it's just a matter
Just
that,
put it on the face of the earth,
coordinates and then
like,
GRF.
like.
it will be each slip, each lot in this map will have a name or a code. And then we'll be able to match that name to our file, the file of that lot.
Well, the map and lot number is already loaded, and when you, like, when I'm doing a form, like Doug's. All right, or a septic permit. I can add property as a line item, which I do as a standard practice, because that gives me the tax owner of record and their home address. You know, that we have,
So that, all that is attached to that.
it's in there as far as,
Yeah.
but it doesn't give you a pin on a, you know, Google Maps.
Gotcha.
You still have to. I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
do that too, when somebody calls and tell me about this property. Okay, well, I go to Google Maps and put in the address, so I'm looking at the aerial view. And then I can look at the information I have. So I know, you know, they say, no, it's not shoreline zoning, I can look at it and see, oh, well, it's pretty darn close, because Google has the measure.
Right, those tools are good,
Yeah,
good to have,
and
Awesome.
Google's way more
good
helpful
thinking. Right?
Yeah.
That's right.
than it used to be. It used to get you lost, now it gets you down.
Right,
Right. Okay, so anything more on the online permit application?
No, I think we discussed it
Okay.
well enough tonight already.
Thank you very much. And please know from my perspective, all the work that you've done, we really appreciate. So when we were, from my perspective, again, comments about what was presented was not a criticism of the work that you've done. It's not that at all, right?
I
It's-
saw through it.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
okay.
Thank you.
yeah.
Want to make sure you know that, because we know there's only one person, only one of you doing lots of things. So we really appreciate.
Well, and during the presentation by Doug, when we tabled the application, there's been previous discussion about tabling, what does that mean? And I
Yes.
think if we in this room have an agreement with the applicant, then that's a starting point. The attorney did say it has to be part of an ordinance to be enforceable.
Mm,
But all the parties involved understand that this is good for a certain time period, we have an agreement. And legally, you know, at least we know we're not gonna be waiting for 6 months, he comes back and say, hey, remember, we talked about this. You know, and even, you know, he wants to reapply anyway, so
Yeah, right.
I just, as a point of record, wanted to have it 30 days.
I think when we last discussed that subject, Hans, you were gonna contact some of the ones that have been applicants have been hanging around.
I did.
What did you find?
All but one, it's not interested anymore.
Huh?
So you're,
Okay.
I'm not gonna give you any of the papers back. But you're
Good with me.
There is one that, and I think he's just not calling back because he's not interested. So I'm gonna assume that it's dead.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you very much.
Do any upcoming commercial applications that you know?
Possibly,
Pardon me?
possibly. I don't know how soon. Yes, there is one in the works. But, I don't know if it's gonna be 60 days or 90 days out, so.
Okay,
Which one is that one?
It's, the Bellavance property,
Well, Dollar General.
it's not them, somebody else,
Oh, it's somebody else.
no, okay,
until it comes to the meeting, I don't think we need to.
Yeah,
right, don't need
it's
to
gonna change again.
thanks. So thank you, Hans, anything else?
I'm done.
Okay. So that's it for the agenda. We've gone through new business, old business, CEO update. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we, call it evening
Okay,
and adjourn.
I second it.
and second, any more discussion? And all those in favor, so Rich, Pete,
I agree.
yeah, okay, Sarah,
Yes.
George,
Yep.
me too, 5 in favor, none opposed, then we shut it down. Thank you very much.
Oh,